John Miglash here from the North Woods for the Wisconsin DMA and the International Society for Strategic Marketing. Today's Target Tuesday is also sponsored in part by Target Marketing Magazine, my favorite source for direct marketing news and information. Be sure to go to targetmarketing.com and sign up for their daily email update. So let's dig in. Target Tuesday, where you learn about epistomarketing, the how we know something for sure that we can extend into the future and have strategic advantage. We're going to talk about, again, the foundation of marketing knowledge. If you remember last time, we talked about testing. We talked about direct marketing as setting up field valid experimentation plus the generation of transactional data. A lot of people think direct marketing is the generation of a measurable response, and that's the big thing. Well, galvanic skin change is measurable. Your neural patterns are measurable. You know, something could think your ads are awful and you still have a measurable response. No, we're actually after selling something. We want growth and profit. We want something that has a high level of engagement so that we know something for sure. And that gives us the strategic, explicit knowledge that we can then extrapolate into the future. Remember, all data is historical, right? Even real-time data is still the past. Tomorrow will be like yesterday unless it isn't. And if you remember the world economic climate in, say, February, and now we're in March, things have changed a lot. I notice the market's up today, but, holy smokes. Oh, my goodness gracious sakes. Get in on Monday night. That's the new rule. Okay, so let's go on. I highly encourage you to get your copy of Scientific Advertising, Scientific Advertising at scientificadvertising.com. Claude Hopkins lays the foundation for direct marketing. Actually, no, he says it was written 100 years ago, but he said for 50 years now, the direct mailers have been testing and they know what works. He said it's not uncommon for a change in headline to multiply returns from 5 to 10 times over. You see the difference between that and generating just some measurable response? Claude Hopkins has a real idea of what's going on. Okay, and I'm noticing that. Well, let's just go on. Okay, a couple of years ago, more than a couple, long time ago, EDS called me up and they said, John, we'd like you to come in and talk to us about the General Motors credit card. So we flew into General Motors, big hallowed halls, marble floors, like a mausoleum, if you ask me. I said, well, why did you call me here? And they said, well, we heard you're a data guy. We heard you know what you're doing with data. And we've got 250 transactions for every one of our 15 million credit card customers for the GM credit card. I said, okay, well, what would you like to know? They said, what we'd really like to know is who would have bought a car if we wouldn't have given them that $5,000 rebate that we promised for using the card. And I said, well, what answer would you like? And they said, wait a minute. They said, we thought you were a data guy. and I said, well, I am, but, data is historical. It's already been formed. And you probably didn't have any holdout tests or any control group or any test markets. So, I'll look through the data, but what answer are you looking for? And if I would have known then what I know now about scientific marketing, I would have said, well, we could look at previous years, several years of data. We could see what the repeat order rate was for your customers in general. We could see what the repeat order was for people who hadn't signed up for the credit card or had not used it much and not gotten a lot of money back. And we could compare that with the people who had gotten the full $5,000 and see if that made a big difference in that repeat order rate. That's what I should have said. But I knew that it would be kind of a fiction because it wasn't consistent through time. It wasn't set up right to get a good answer. And so then they didn't hire me. which is probably okay. Um, I've spent a lot of time in my marketing career thinking about how we know things for sure. And I keep going back to the scientific method I learned in sophomore year high school biology, where we take observation, we we some things strike us funny, and we come up with a hypothesis. We design an experiment to test the hypothesis. We either confirm or disconfirm that hypothesis, and however it comes out, we come up with an explanation, which gives us something to test again, a variation. And once we get that process over and over and over, enough confirmations, we end up with a theory of what's really going on in the world. But part of it is observation. And if you Google scientific method, most of the things that come up skip that point, skip observation. But that's really the key of the process, the key iteration. That data, the point of data is not just that this won on that date. The point of data is to generate confirmation or disconfirmation, to give us new things to test, new ideas, new ways to encounter our customers. When I first got started in the direct mail industry, my list broker gave me 6 data cards and said, see how these do and then get back to me. And I said, well, what are these about? Well, some are magazines, some are catalog customers. Just tell me what won and what lost, and I'll find you more lists like it. And I said, well, what do you mean like it if you don't know if you're not going to tell me what these lists are? So I did some background research, and I got a different list broker, and I started building databases of lists. And I started thinking about how they were similar, how they were dissimilar, what might be going on, and why one might win and one might lose, so that I had some starting point in selecting other lists. And that's really what we're talking about in observation. We're talking about curiosity. We're talking about how businesses are built on discovery, on new ideas. What did you see? What did you expect to see? What do you think caused the difference? What's going on here? And once you get an idea of what might be going on, then we can codify the hypothesis and structure the test. I One of my first big accounts was a company that wanted to start a catalog. They had only field sales, and we we built them a catalog, and they worked with very big brand names in America. And so we thought, well, this will give credibility to this industry. Let's put Pontiac on the items, and Ford, and 3M, and Caterpillar, and JI Case, and all this, and it'll upgrade the industry, which was mainly gas station products and things like that. And I would hand it to my friends who owned companies, and they would say, why would I want to buy a Pontiac hat? And I said, no, 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 it's not to buy a Pontiac hat, it's to put your logo on the hat. Oh, yeah, okay, we buy some of that stuff. And then they'd be interested. Well, after that happened about a dozen times, I started thinking, maybe people aren't getting what we're doing. So I went to my creative director and I said, I want to do your imprint here, your logo, customize this embroidery or something. And he said, I'm not doing it. That'll junk up the catalog. And I said, well, I think it'll make a big difference. And he wouldn't do it, so I fired him. And the new creative director came in, and one of the artists came in and said, well, we're not going to do it. It'll junk up the catalog. And the creative director said, your job is not to decide what we test. Your job is to make it as unugly as possible. And so this is what we did. This is, the two catalogs. If you don't look closely, you won't even see the difference. I've put it up on a slide for the DMA show, and only about half the audience actually got what was going on here. But we did 600,000 pieces, 300,000 of each. And this catalog, with not one word of copy difference, with not one price difference, no item differences, nothing different in the body of the catalog, just this one shot versus this shot, generated 40% greater sales. 40%. It made the difference between being able to prospect and not being able to prospect, being able to grow dramatically and not being able to grow. It really changed the game for this company and made this a successful multi-million dollar enterprise. That one observation and test and confirmation, which gave us a theory that, hey, we got to be telling people what's going on. And it did say right here in this paragraph, it did say what was going on, but people weren't getting it. That's the power of testing. That's the power of observation. Rather than keep on telling people, you're not getting it. Testing is about, I had a golf client. I said, which is a better golfer? Because they were saying, why should we test? I said, well, which golfer's better? A golfer shoots 73 or a golfer shoots 85? And the founder of the company said, well, it depends. I said, you bet it depends. 73 is my best round ever on some little executive course. 85 is Jack Nicklaus's worst round ever in a PGA tournament. Does that make me a better golfer than Jack Nicklaus? No. Different course, different day, different time. Everything's different. And the president said, well, that's why we play tournaments on the same course, on the same day, in the same weather. I said, you bet. So what we're going to do is we're going to take your creative, which had almost no pricing information, almost no product information. I said, I'm going to take my try at it with your creative people, and you take your try at it, and we're going to see how it does. We'll mail them out the same day, same time, see what happens. Well, we got a very, very significant change, and he redid how he designed his catalog. And he went on to become a successful company, understanding the power of testing, right? But even at a small level, rather than fight about it, you don't have to fight about it. I just said, I know how to make it more effective. I'd read Claude Hopkins' book, right? So that's kind of the foundation of marketing knowledge. That's what we're talking about here. We're talking about how do we know something for sure? You're probably looking at, dozens of omni-channel channels. You're probably changing your message over and over for different times in different places. Maybe you're trying to dynamically anticipate your customers' needs. Maybe you're trying to guess what they're going to want to buy next. All of that's well and good. But if you don't have the foundation, if you're missing something big and obvious, you might be missing the difference between making your company successful with growth and profits and just slinging another thing at the wall. It's really important that you understand epistomarketing. I'm John Miglosh. Like and share. Your friends will think you're smart. Bye-bye.